Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and we're going to do another one where you're going to talk about politics, and I will just add on my own thoughts with some of your comments, particularly around Boris Johnson and attitudes of Tory MPs towards Boris Johnson. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, first of all, weird one here. It says, just a slightly odd one to get it out of the way. It says, "Hi Phil, lots of posts from you recently. Is it getting squeaky bottom time for you?" I believe the phrase is squeaky bottom time. It means the same thing. That is the same number of posts from me. I do 19 videos a week. I will be hoping to carry on doing that, although I am going to be doing some cover teaching, hopefully just for a couple of weeks, and then just doing a small amount of teaching. But I don't know about that yet. Hopefully I'll be able to maintain the schedule. But now I've been doing the same number of videos and the same number of posts. Nothing's changed in terms of that. But is it getting squeaky bum time? Well, it's getting to endgame. Everything's getting to endgame. Lots of things. You know, it's going to be, politically speaking, it's going to be dynamite this autumn. It's going to be tragic, terrible, but politically extremely interesting. And here's a thing of interest as well, just to get this out of the way. This isn't from a comment, but this is Boris Johnson in a school library delivering a speech. And some eagle-eyed people have noticed the collection of books. So a lot of the books, of course, spines folded out there. Those books are just where those books would be. But you've got some books on the top shelf there that are there for display purposes. The librarian has chosen those. Interesting titles. Interesting titles. So, apparently these books are, some of them I could see, some of them took some eagle-eyed viewers. So we've got in there books behind Boris Johnson. The Subtle Knife, Fahrenheit 451, Betrayed, The Resistance, The Toll, Crisis Point, Glass Houses, and The Twits. And there was another book, because I got these, somewhat Nicholas Pegg, the comedy writer and actor, found from someone that one of them that was very difficult to make out is a book called Exodus, which is apparently a book about a dystopian future. We could just stop there, but in which global warming has caused the oceans to rise and the heroes are dispossessed migrants desperately seeking refuge by boat. So effectively what we have here is Boris Johnson having no idea that he is being trolled good and hard by that school librarian. Applause there, applause. Anyway, get on to your comments. So next one here. So I had a few comments about this. It's just slightly off kilter, but there were so many comments on it. I clearly was not clear. It says, "Phil, the problematic COVID recovery is in fact becoming recognised. I suspect one reason it hasn't been brought to the fore is that certain agendas want to minimise the effects of spreading the disease." So this was me saying that, so Boris Johnson, the word is getting out, oh, he's going to be stepping down in February. Obviously, he denies it. The officials say, no, this is not true. But, you know, the rumours are getting out there. Because of an illness, he never really recovered. He lost his mojo. You know, COVID took it from him. And I was saying, if this were a thing, then we'd have heard about it, wouldn't we? Because hundreds of thousands have got COVID and have recovered. And people are going, oh no, Phil, there are people who have long-term chronic illnesses as a result of COVID and never really recover. Yeah, that's not what I was saying. Maybe my fault not being clear. Well, clearly not being clear because so many people did say it. I'm not talking about people having long-term chronic illnesses after COVID. What I'm talking about is specifically the accusation here that Boris Johnson had his mojo taken from him as a result of COVID. The not really recovered is not he doesn't have a chronic condition. He's not in poor health. Let's make that clear. He's lost his mojo. COVID nicked his mojo. That is what is being claimed here. So that was the point I was trying to make. Not seen any medical reports of people losing their mojo or failing to recover from that point of view, being physically well, but somehow not quite firing on all cylinders, not quite making the right decisions, because that's ultimately all he's accused of. He's not accused of being physically unfit, and he's not. He's gone to great lengths to try and prove that he's as fit as he was before the illness. Anyway, next one. It says, if the majority of Conservative MPs are closet anti-Brexiteers, then yes, they will get rid of him. In terms of, will they get rid of him? I have always suspected many of them are playing a double game, just waiting for an opportunity to come out. Now, on this point, I'm not... Before the general election, absolutely. At the moment, no. I mean, it was said before the general election, with a lot of Conservative MPs, some of them were genuinely mad. Some of them were just pretending to be mad. As it got towards, the sharp end of the stick, it was very difficult to tell who was who. And it still is a little bit. The thing is, and I did reply to this person, the thing is that I wouldn't think that you've got a majority of Conservative MPs who are closet anti-Brexiteers at all. I don't believe that. And the reason I say that is because in order to be allowed to stand as a candidate for the Conservative Party at the 2019 general election, the candidates were made to publicly back, not just Brexit, they had to publicly back Brexit. They were not allowed to say that they personally were not in favour of it. But more, they had to say clearly and sign something to the effect that they were in support of Boris Johnson's Brexit, the hard Brexit. Now, yes, there will absolutely be some who are not in favour of that and do not believe in it and just publicly said so in order to be allowed to be the candidate. In other words, they abandoned their principles for political and financial gain, because it's not a bad gig being an MP. But you would also think that that would mean that the majority of MPs just naturally would have been the ones who were really up for it anyway. And the other thing I would say is what you really need to do is judge by action. So how will these MPs react to the prospect of a no deal? Now, we're already in the position where if we do get a deal, it will be a little better than a no deal. So these MPs have already shown that they are happy for a hard Brexit. At the point at which they refused to force Boris Johnson to seek an extension to the transition period, because at that point it was clear that only a hard Brexit was possible. Even then, it was only a hard, even with the deal, it's still a hard Brexit because there's still going to be severe friction with trade. So Conservative MPs were obviously fine with that, because it would not have taken many Conservative MPs to have rebelled and joined opposition parties to force an extension through, as used to happen during the last Parliament. So we can see that Tory MPs are comfortable with a hard Brexit. Are they comfortable with no deal at all? They're not making much of a fuss, is what I would say. So I do not believe that a majority of them are closet anti-Brexiteers. I think they are, but I think they'll also still get rid of him because ultimately they're losing so much credibility amongst the public with Boris Johnson in charge. As Tory MPs keep saying, it's fundamentally an issue of competence. Next one says, can the whole too ill to carry on gambit be blown up during PMQ by Starmer asking about Johnson's health and if he is fit enough to do the job? Yes and no. He can ask the question, but at the end of the day, given that Boris Johnson's official answer will be, of course I'm not stepping down, I'm as fit as a fiddle, it's just something that they want to be put out there to shut Conservative MPs up, I think. I'm not part of the Westminster bubble. I can't really say. I can only, when correspondents or others that are listening to these MPs report it, that's all I get. I don't get to talk. I don't get the information firsthand. But I would see it as a Cummings ploy to try and get the rumours. They're basically saying to Tory MPs, look, he's stepping down in February, give him a break. And then to the public, of course he's not stepping down. That'd be ridiculous. And then to the Tory MPs, he is really. We're just not telling them. Is how I see it. So I don't think there's any value in Starmer trying to push it if officially Boris Johnson is not trying to say he's too ill and he's not saying he's stepping down. Next one, it says, when will that unelected bureaucrat who's running the country, Dominic Cummings, go? Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because if Boris Johnson is removed... Because it's quite clear. See, a lot of Conservative MPs do not want Dominic Cummings in place, whether they be Brexiteer or not. The Brexiteers don't want him in place because Dominic Cummings represents a threat to their power. Tory backbenchers want control of the Prime Minister. Dominic Cummings makes that impossible because Boris Johnson just listens to Dominic Cummings. Tory backbenchers don't like that. They want Johnson to do what they say, not Dominic Cummings. They also know that Dominic Cummings doesn't give a crap about the Conservative Party. He doesn't care at all if the Conservatives end up with no MPs after the next election. I mean, that won't happen, but he wouldn't care if they did. He would still carry on regardless. He just cares about his legacy. And yet the ones who are opposed to the hard Brexit are of course opposed to Dominic Cummings. They don't like the fact that Brexit won in the first place and they blame Dominic Cummings for that, not unreasonably. So they don't like him either. He's not liked. He's not at all liked. But then Boris Johnson isn't liked. You know, I know Boris Johnson won, handsomely in the leadership election last year, but he's not well liked in Parliament, even though he ended up being Parliament's top choice. And he's not well liked in the party, even though the party overwhelmingly voted for him. He won simply because they thought, you know, he'd be the person to deliver this Brexit, to get us out of the EU. That's all. That was all there was to it. They didn't realise he was going to actually have to do some governing as well, apparently. But in terms of getting rid of Dominic Cummings, I mean, this is an interesting one. So if they got rid of Boris Johnson, the opportunity exists to get rid of Dominic Cummings as well. To do that, they would have to insist that to get their support, a candidate has to promise to get rid of Dominic Cummings. Would they do that? It depends who they want to be leader. Because some of the people in senior positions of government, see, there is a lot of talk, and it's pure speculation. We don't know anything. There is a lot of talk that, because people are amazed that Dominic Cummings is still in post. Why is he when he's costing so much damage? And is it that he's got the goods on Boris Johnson? If he's got the goods on Boris Johnson, he's got the goods on Michael Gove, Priti Patel, Dominic Raab, and so on as well. So is that it? Is it a blackmail issue? In which case, Tory backbenchers might be thinking, well, who doesn't he have the goods on? And would they support them? Or would they rather support the candidate they want to support, even if it means coming with Dominic Cummings? I would have thought not, because essentially a lot of Tory MPs probably imagine that the cock-up after cock-up, U-turn after U-turn is coming as a result of Dominic Cummings, not so much Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson's just going along with it. So, although I can't know, I'd be very surprised if Boris Johnson can be eased out and Dominic Cummings remain in place, because I really think backbenchers would want him gone. Next one. How did we end up with a man who, simply put, was not up to the job? Well, I sort of alluded to this already, haven't I? He was the one to be trusted with the no-deal Brexit. That was all there was to it. The other candidates, the final two were Jeremy Hunt and Boris Johnson. Everyone knew Jeremy Hunt was a more serious candidate. Boris Johnson is not a serious candidate. Everyone knows that. No backbench Tory MP is really surprised that Boris Johnson was not up to the task of COVID. But they thought he was up to the task of Brexit. And, you know, we're out of the EU. And sure enough, he's delivering this, not extending the transition period. He's delivering the hard Brexit that many of them want. So they were sort of right from that point of view. It was just unfortunate, as far as they're concerned, that we got hit with a genuine crisis, not a made-up one, because he's not really up to that. So that's how we ended up with him. And bear in mind, when they elected him leader, no one imagined that he'd still be in place years later. They just wanted him to do a job. They weren't even thinking of a general election. There was always a possibility all the way through 2019, but they weren't even thinking of that. They just wanted him to do a job, get us out of the EU. Get us out of the EU. That was it. He did that. So from that point of view, they made the right decision. They just wanted it to be done cleanly before, you know, and get rid of him quickly as well, potentially. Now you'd bloody well think they definitely do. So that's ultimately it. It was about Brexit. That's all it was about. None of the other candidates could be trusted when it came to it to going over the cliff edge. He was the only one insane enough to do that. Then the inevitable next question is, who on earth do they get behind instead if they give Johnson the old heave-ho? Well, that is indeed the million-dollar question. It's the one we'll keep coming to. We'll no doubt be speculating until there's a leadership election at some point. Who knows? Because at the moment, the more senior members of government have all been exposed as just as incompetent as Boris Johnson. If the reason they get rid of Boris Johnson, as is likely, because we keep making cock up after cock up and U-turn after U-turn, are they really going to get behind Dominic Raab, Priti Patel, Matt Hancock? No. God, no. They're just as bad. Rishi Sunak, they might. He's not as thick as they are. But again, you know, his popularity may go on the wane in a few months' time when the end of the furlough scheme bites. There's also talk of him, you know, messing with pensions. Who else, really? I mean, you could go back to Jeremy Hunt. He's presumably going to have another crack at it. Absolutely. And he's removed himself from Boris Johnson's government. So he's clean of Boris Johnson's cock-ups. So they may go back to him. But it is a very difficult one. In fact, because there's no obvious successor, I've said before and I'll say it again, I think that's one of the things keeping Johnson in the post right now. Otherwise, I think he would already be gone. So there we go. Those are some of your comments about, you know, Boris Johnson and his position within the Conservative Party at the moment and how Conservative MPs will be seeing him right now. Those are my thoughts as well. Let me know your further thoughts in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.